You're a campaign director of a group that's supposed to know everything about these issues. You've come on in your official capacity as a spokesperson for Defund the BBC onto Talk TV to try and talk about the issues with regards to Gary Lineker's whether or not he should or shouldn't be suspended by the BBC, and you haven't even bothered to look up the fucking terms of his contract! Now, I'm sure you've all seen all of the coverage of Gary Lineker and his response to Suella Braverman and the new migrant crisis legislation that's being debated tomorrow, actually. Oh, no, Monday, I think, it's being debated in Parliament. Either way, he made an incredibly innocuous comment on Twitter, and it's caused a gigantic media shitstorm. So the long and short of it is, really, is that he is being suspended by the BBC unless he can...
neoliberalism.
Thank you for the subscription.
Get well soon.
Medium. Much appreciated. So he's being suspended by the BBC until he can agree new social media guidelines. Now, this is nonsense, I would like to say. It's complete nonsense, because what the actual case that we have here is that he is a freelancer. He is being employed by them on a freelance basis to present Match of the Day, which means that he is not bound by any internal clauses of impartiality outside of his remit in presenting Match of the Day in the first place. Those are two completely separate things. And then when you actually want to look at somebody who does have to make political opinions in his political coverage, right? How about you look at, for example, I don't know, Andrew Neil, who is, well, obviously Gary Lineker is politically non-partisan. He just calls it like he is, not like a partisan actor for any specific political party, for example. He may have his own political ideology, but he's in his own private capacity, right? In his own private capacity, he's made these comments. He's not bound by BBC impartiality for comments that he makes on Twitter as a freelancer, in the same way that, despite the fact that Andrew Neil is not centrally contracted for anything by the BBC, he's hired on the same basis to present their political, who was hired on by the BBC to present their political output. He is someone who is incredibly politically partisan, who was a director of GB News for at least some amount of time, who is the chairman of The Spectator, an far-right magazine that praises the far-right Golden Dawn in Greece, or runs articles in it called In Praise of the Wehrmacht, or has front covers depicting hordes of Muslims climbing up the cliffs of Dover, for example, right? So this is an incredibly politically partisan individual, not just on an ideological basis, but on a party political basis as well. In the publications that he is chair of, or previous ex-director of, for example, these were two incredibly politically partisan institutions who supported the Conservative Party. Andrew Neil is well within his rights to make politically partisan comments on social media outside of his official remit. And JDM is right in chat. Someone who'd emailed him in the past, and emailed the BBC in the past, talking about Andrew Neil's incredibly politically partisan comments, and they responded exactly with what I've just said there, is that he's a freelancer, and as a private citizen in his private capacity on Twitter, he's allowed to make those remarks. And why do you think that there is this distinction being made between a right-wing political commentator who does their politics output as a freelancer, and someone who is a liberal person, I guess, someone who's ideologically liberal, who does not present any kind of political matters on the BBC. It works in the same freelance capacity, but on a sports programme. It's suddenly beyond the pale for him to not even state any kind of partisan political opinion, but to describe his feelings and his thoughts around a specific policy prescription. Like, that's how innocuous Gary Lineker's comments were. Now, I'm not going to get into long discussions about whether I think that it is justified to make comments where you compare actions happening now to rhetoric that was similar in 1930s Weimar Germany. So, the long and short of my belief on that one is, the whole point of this, as Kevin was pointing out on Wednesday evening, the whole point of this is to never forget, right? Not never remember, to never forget. If we are going to say that nothing, right, in YouGov polling even said that actions, people overwhelmingly supported the idea that actions should never ever be compared to what happened in Weimar Germany in the 30s, which means that when the same thing does happen, people fundamentally believe that we shouldn't make that comparison. There's this very silly idea that people have that the past and these actions are special and they cannot be repeated, and we can't have similar things happening today because they can't face the level of human cruelty and the level of you know, the level to which a state and its population can disintegrate to get to the point at which things that happened in Weimar Germany can happen. And I'm sorry, right? Like, we've had genocides globally, not too recent past, right? The Rwandan genocide was in the 90s. The Cambodian genocide was in the 70s, for example. These are not like these. We are closer to the Rwandan genocide, right, than the Rwandan genocide is to the Holocaust, for example. And the same kind of dehumanizing language was used in the Rwanda genocide in a similar way to which people will, in common parlance, describe the refugee crisis and the quote-unquote small boats crisis, for example. Do you mean after Weimar Germany fell? Well, no, the issue is the comparison that people are making here is that the rhetoric that led to the fall of Weimar Germany is what the issue is here. No one is saying that the concentration camps have opened, although, Manston is a concentration camp, but the extermination camps haven't opened, and they won't open, right? At no point does anybody in the Conservative government have any specific desire to, eradicate any sections of the population, for example. No one has that specific desire. But that doesn't mean that the rhetoric that they espouse could not theoretically be used to justify these same things. The dehumanizing rhetoric that they use. Remember Akala talking about Katie Hopkins and the way that she viewed the, I believe it was the Libyan refugees who were drowning in the Mediterranean, where she was describing them as cockroaches. And right, the moment that you describe humans as non-human, that's a mandate for murder. And I think that he's correct in that assumption. And so, regardless of whether or not the Conservative Party genuinely have the desire to, eradicate groups of people, which obviously that they don't, that doesn't mean the rhetoric is not inflammatory in such a way as to engender those feelings within a populace. And that's the issue, right? It's the rhetoric that leads up to that point that it's the issue. Where I think, again, we saw the same discussion happening with things with regards to, the rhetoric surrounding anti-trans stuff, anti-trans legislation in the United States right now, where people are saying, well, we can't call it genocide until, people, trans people are being forcibly removed from their families and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, the whole point of understanding this history is so that when we see the early warning signs, for example, we'll be able to stop it from happening, and that being able to act that and those things coming to pass by spotting the early signs to be able to prevent that. Otherwise, you'll be too late. You'll be too late. All of those views will be endemic in society. There's a really great video essay by Tom Nicholas about the kind of mentality of the people who will get attracted to fascism. And those people are always going to exist in society. And the kind of people who have voted for, the Nazis in Germany, in Weimar Germany, and then also obviously post-enabling act as well, those people were the same people that you'd go and, you'd see in the grocery store and you would have conversations with. In fact, the fact that it was a representative democracy meant that people were in some way insulated from the decisions that were being made on their behalf with the votes that they had given in that point. So the idea that these comparisons cannot or should not be made is completely nonsensical. And given the amount of centralization of power that's going on, as obviously the BBC stuff is, there's plenty of discussion that we can have at the moment around issues with regards to cronyism in the BBC. You've got Robbie Gibb, Tim Davie, Richard Sharp, etc., etc., etc. There's clearly huge amounts of cronyism going on in the BBC right now, and that's an issue. But that's not the problem here. That's no way near the problem, right? The real issue is the ways in which the government is using rhetoric to try and inflame the populace, to try and push through dehumanizing legislation. And let us not forget that. Let us not forget that the real point of all of this, the real discussion that we should be having, is around the legislation. This legislation's been condemned by human rights group, the Auschwitz Memorial. Loads of people have condemned this who aren't Gary Lineker. But people are so desperate for a culture war that...
Because I'm literally a communist.
Moonshake Paul, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the Justice Stream. I hope you're doing okay. Is that by turning this into a discussion about the role of the BBC and Gary Lineker as a person and the political ideology that he espouses, right? And again, he's made politically partisan comments previously. He said he was talking about trying to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn. Was he in any way ever taken to task for that? No. Were the BBC ever taken to task outside of fringe leftists around their treatment of Jeremy Corbyn and the quite ridiculous language that was surrounding him? In similar from people like Alan Sugar, freelance employees of the BBC, sharing images of Jeremy Corbyn photoshopped next to Adolf Hitler, for example. Was anybody calling for a review into BBC partiality at that time? Of course they weren't. And there has been a concerted effort by the right-wing media to try and frame the BBC as somehow being this kind of this hub of left-wing bias, specifically so that there can be this justification for putting in these crony characters into the top of the BBC hierarchy by people like Boris Johnson, etc. But again, this should not be the thing that we should be discussing. Yeah, the Corbyn commie hat, exactly, or Jeremy Corbyn as Voldemort, Rishi Sunak as Superman, for example. But these issues are discussions that we definitely can and should be having. But the main thrust of what the discussion that we should be having is the fact that this legislation is repugnant, it's revolting. They're using it will fail, and it's being used as a proxy issue to remove not just the human rights of the undesirables, which is obviously fascistic rhetoric already, right? To say that the undesirables shouldn't have basic human rights, shouldn't have protections against fucking slavery is revolting, for example. But the idea that the in-group feel like they won't be touched by the end goal of the Tories' desire to remove us from the European Court of Human Rights, to remove us from the UN Refugee Convention, which may I remind everybody was set up in the wake of what happened in the 1940s. The reason why we have a globally agreed upon refugee convention is to stop what happened to Jewish people fleeing Nazi Germany who were refused asylum and refugee status in plenty of countries around Europe. And that's why we have that the convention in the first place that was not only agreed to by the UK, but we helped draft in the wake of the Second World War, a legacy that we are now trampling on. And Gary Lineker should 100% call that out. I support every single BBC sports presenter who has taken the time to stand in solidarity with Gary Lineker over this issue, right? Yeah, I'm super fucking ill, Banberg. I really do need it. The second thing I want to discuss about this is the fucking absolutely, genuinely pathetic response from the Labour Party on this issue. It's very clear, right? In the run-up to this, we saw Yvette Cooper, we saw Emily Thornberry say, oh, we don't agree with Gary Lineker's comments, and you're happy to throw him under the bus. He shouldn't have made those comments, right? Because they thought, the Labour Triangulation Committee on Policy thought it would be best to again, follow what they believe the public narrative is or should be, for example, or not even what it is. They always, the political windsocks who will, the weather vanes who will always face the way that they think that the wind is blowing rather than try and narrativize and have any fucking principles. So these people were saying, or condemning Gary Lineker's comments or whatever, until, hang on a minute, people agree with Gary Lineker and they think that what's happening is bad. Oh, I guess we'll change our opinions now. Oh no, we genuinely really do support Gary Lineker now. Oh, we've turned on a fucking dime. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. When you look at what we saw on PMQs on Wednesday, where the discussion was only ever really about between Sunak and Stubbs who is best at demonising refugees, for example, and the genuine real opposition was coming from Stephen Flynn of the SNP. It's despicable that what the Labour Party has become in response to what's happening here, and it's genuinely pathetic how few principles the front bench of the Labour Party is left with at this point in time. And it's very clear they had an emergency focus group to decide what they think the policy should be based upon what some kind of gaggle of middle class homeowners thought the policy should be, or what they believe or following the prescriptions of the mythical swing voter group that they're desperately always trying to appeal to, regardless of what their own core principles are in the first place. And it's very clear that the Labour Policy Triangulation Committee are deliberately trying to finding a way of continuing the anti-small boat rhetoric, continuing to support Gary Lineker, whilst also trying to defend BBC impartiality, whatever it is, for example, right? They can't have, and also trying to attack Corbyn at the same time. Quite frankly, it's a miracle that Alistair Campbell, of all people, right, and Mr. Dodgy Dossier himself, on BBC News defending Jeremy Corbyn against the partisan attacks from people like Alan Sugar or whatever. But their actual discussion on this issue, for example, on the state of the policy that's being proposed here, is pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic, for example. Absolutely pathetic. One man, though, the one who's always got the correct takes, is the man himself, friend of the show, Jeremy Corbyn. And he was recently interviewed on LBC about this specific issue, about the bill that's being proposed, and also the issue with Gary Lineker and the BBC. And so we're going to watch that, and we shall see the man in action, being based as always.
But let's go to Jeremy Corbyn.
What's interesting as well, Sensibilium, you say it's a good distraction from the Eagle Bill being attempted to be pushed through Parliament. And what's interesting is that Rishi Sunak was on Sky News today saying that... I've got the wrong image there. Saying that he also believes that it's distraction. Then that Rishi Sunak, the Conservatives genuinely believe that if they continue to push through the small boat rhetoric, that will somehow give them some kind of boost in the polls moving forward, for example. Like for some reason they don't want there to be a distraction around Gary Lineker and the political partiality of the BBC, which means nonsensical to me. If I was in the Tory space, I'm like, yeah, great, right? We get to push through our legislation to leave the European Court of Human Rights, for example, and everyone else is busy discussing the fate of a BBC sports presenter. The whole reason why Lineker is getting so much flack is because Labour have ceased being an opposition and the Tories need enemy for their culture war. Well, that's the issue, right? In 2021, the real leader of the opposition was Marcus Rashford. In 2022, the real leader of the opposition was Mick Lynch. And in 2023, the leader of the opposition is fucking Gary Lineker. Like, what the fuck? Keir Starmer is so pathetic. Genuinely pathetic. It's the only... I'm sorry to keep using the same word, but it's the only way to describe it. It's genuinely pathetic. We have an opposition party who has no desire to do any opposing whatsoever. We have the Tory party are brilliant. I said this on Wednesday. They're brilliant at constructing a narrative and following it through for electoral purposes. And Labour just continually are under the opinion that they cannot ever shift people's minds on policy. And all they have to do is follow whatever they believe the public conscience is. And that's a recipe for everything just continually going further right wing, where the Tories will create some kind of manufactured policy war, like they have with the small boat issue, for example, which again I will point out yet again is entirely down to the poor asylum system funding. It's been deliberately caused by a failure of Conservative governance, and they have no desire to open the safe and legal routes that we need to be able to break the business model of the criminal gangs, whilst also being able to put people into the asylum system, be able to get them their claims heard in the first place, right? They've manufactured this crisis to get us into the position that we're in now. And Labour are just going, well, I guess we'll just be better at being anti-small boats. Brilliant. No way of trying to shift the move to window along. And that's why we're in the grip of the far right, because the Labour Party have no desire to be any kind of fucking opposition. It's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. What's happening with the UK and the ECHR? Are we going to leave that? We will, because it will be found that the new small boats policy that's being proposed will be shown to be unlawful. And the Tories will say, this is the last straw for our legislation being blocked by people like the European Court of Human Rights and the activist blob of lefty lawyers and Ramonas and the Wokerati. And they will try and leave the European Court of Human Rights. They tested the waters with Rwanda, and this is going to be the next step along the way. seems like polling indicates the Lineker fallout has decreased support for the Tory small boats policies. Well, yeah, I'm not surprised. That's why Rishi Sunak is wanting to get people's discussion away from it. But now it's all out in the open. We all know about Robbie Gibb. We all know about Tim Davey, about Richard Sharp, about all the people in the Conservative sphere of influence. Or Nick Robinson, for example. How long has he been director of... he's been involved with the BBC politics coverage. He was a fucking head of the Young Conservative Party in his youth, right? Like, how politically partisan does the BBC need to be? And there's, like... and now it's all being exposed from people, because people do genuinely support the BBC. I support the existence of a public state broadcaster, but in the absence of people in control of government who don't want to erode people's trust in the government itself and in the state broadcaster, it's going to be the BBC's future is genuinely under threat. Because the Tories know that the one thing that is between them and complete hegemonic control over media narratives is an impartial state broadcaster. They don't believe in it in the same way they don't believe in a fully public NHS. They don't believe in any of this stuff, and every single policy they do around it is being specifically crafted to undermine it, to reinforce and manufacture public support to dismantle it. It's despotic. It's horrendous. So I said we got sidetracked there, but we're going to watch Jezza Crombles, the jam man himself, being absolutely based as fuck on LBC.
Former Labour leader, big Arsenal supporter, of course.
Yes.
Sitting in the studio next to me. Okay, so is the BBC right to suspend him, yes or no?
Wrong. Completely wrong.
Why?
He's got a perfect right to express an opinion. Even within the BBC's own code, they're allowed to express opinions, providing it doesn't, of a partisan nature, providing it doesn't impinge on their area of work. His area of work is sport. Others, Alan Sugar and many others, have made the most partisan comments in the past.
Against you?
Against me, yes.
Amongst others, yeah.
Amongst others, but against me particularly. I remember it very, very well. And
I think, fair play to LBC, right? I have criticisms of LBC's coverage at the best of times, but the fact that of all the people to get on in the wake of this crisis, Jeremy Corbyn is the perfect guest to get on, considering the parallels between what they're talking about with Alan Sugar and Gary Lineker, for example, at this point in time. I think he's the ideal guest to get on currently, as well as also being one of the very few people on the opposition benches who actually supports the rights of refugees at this point.
Absolutely nothing was done, despite complaints being made to the BBC. They've sort of come down like a ton of bricks on Gary Lineker. And whilst I support what Gary said, and I think he's a decent human being in the way he's put it and said it, unfortunately, the whole debate...
This is in the wake of Gary Lineker being incredibly anti-Corbyn, right? What the fuck is this? A politician with like the semblance of principle, rather than just continually playing power games and creating team sports out of the nuance of political policy structure. What crazy idea that someone have basic principles. Like our politics is so rotten to the core right now that there's just so few MPs left with any principles whatsoever on both sides of the fucking aisle. I despair, I really do. And also in the Labour Party manifesto, there was provisions to democratise the BBC, make it more independent, make it more representative of the public, rather than being in the sole control of the machinations of who is in control of the state at any one time. Shame, shame didn't fucking vote for that. Shame that people like James O'Brien, Sathnam Sanghera, all the people now on Twitter talking about the descent that we have into fascism. Oh, well, look, so I'm going to have to fucking tap the sign. You got what you fucking wanted, yet again.
Now is shifting onto Gary and the BBC and ignoring the issue of this, I think, disgraceful piece of legislation that Parliament's about to debate on Monday.
The small votes. Well, we're going to get onto that as well in this interview. We've got Amber Rudd, the former Home Secretary, talking about that later in the programme too. So the two are linked, of course. But I just also wonder, and I started this programme by talking about language. The government, Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, when she proposed this bill, used, what's the right word? Strong language, abrasive language. Some would call it extreme language. She talked about 100 million people who want to come to this country. The whole issue of stop the boats, the way it was emblazoned in block letters on the Prime Minister's specially made lectern for his presentation of the bill, it is about the strength of the language as a means of deterrence, telling people who might want to get on a boat, don't bother doing this because you're not going to end up in paradise, you'll end up in a detention centre and possibly back from where you came. So the strength of the language is part of the issue here, is it not?
I went to Calais last month. and met people there who've come by truck, walking from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Syria, from Libya, from Sudan, and many other places, totally desperate people. They're not listening to speeches by Suella Braverman or anybody else.
So the deterrence doesn't work, you're saying?
They haven't got a clue what's being said in this country. They're more interested in how they're going to get a glass of water and how they're going to feed themselves, and desperate to get somewhere to live. But you know what? The asylum seekers that do get here and eventually, hopefully, get their papers and so on sorted out, tomorrow they're going to be our doctors, our teachers, our lawyers, our engineers, and so on. Why can't we have a sense of humanity towards what are absolutely desperate people? You or I wouldn't get on a leaky dinghy to go across the Serpentine. They are risking everything because they believe that this country will at least treat them fairly and properly.
So, given the fact that you don't like the language used by the government, again, I get back to that question.
Sure.
Did Gary Lineker use the right language when he went for the nuclear option? And this is literally the kind of the last resort comparison. You compare someone to the Nazis.
Well, the one who
then,
used
you're in a different realm, aren't you?
Sure. I think we have to be very careful.
It's also worth mentioning as well that the political rhetoric that surrounded the rise of the Nazis didn't come specifically central from the party. It was built upon fears and agitation from various far-right people within the population. The Nazi Party, they had their despicable ideology in the first place, but they weren't going to be successful unless the kind of people who were willing to support them already exist in the population in the first place. Oh, fuck it, I will ride that rubber boat all the way to fucking New Zealand, claim asylum as a trans woman.
Ever comparing things to Nazis, the Holocaust was the most vile thing that ever happened in our history. However, I would just draw attention to the fact that it was Joan Salter, who herself is a Holocaust survivor, who drew the parallel of the language being used by the Home Office and the hateful language used by the Nazis during their ascent to power in Germany in the 1920s and 30s.
So let me ask you very basically then, so with the language he used in his tweet, are you with Gary Lineker, yes or no?
I'm with Gary Lineker, yes.
Okay, and how should the BBC handle this?
Well, I think they should reinstate him and let him get on with his excellent job presenting Match of the Day and accept that he has an opinion which is at variance of that of the government. And your caller earlier, Charlie from Fulham, who was saying that had he supported the government, would this have happened? Well, obviously it wouldn't.
Yeah.
We have two people heading the BBC, the chair and the director general, both, how should I put it, very closely associated with the Conservative Party. What we need is public service broadcasting. Yes, we need it to be independent, obviously, but we also need it to be accessible and representative of the whole country.
But, when it comes to
it took a whole lot of centrists looking the other way too. 100%. And it's really interesting, right? We are now getting to the point where the liberals and the centrists are now not looking the other way, right? Where we had 4 years of a non-stop, McCarthyist circus in the entirety of the fucking media around the man who we just saw on screen, right? It was the most deranged period for the British press in the entirety of the history of the UK, since probably since the time period that we're discussing now. But the incredible, ridiculous discussions that we were having over Jeremy Corbyn as Labour leader, for example. People on LBC itself, Simon Heffer saying that Jeremy Corbyn's going to reopen Auschwitz. Oliver Cam saying that young Labour wanted a second Holocaust in the Middle East, for example. It's the most utterly demented language was had. People fully lost their minds, whipped up in this McCarthyism smear. What did the centrists and liberals say about this? Nothing. Fucking nothing. They agreed with it. They gave tacit support to it. And now, right, the right wing press they've got a fucking taste for it, and they're going fucking hard on anybody who deviates even somewhat from the prescribed neoliberal groupthink that the entirety of the press will believe in. And the centrists got exactly what they fucking wanted. Yeah, again. Every single time. Every single time the centrists get exactly what they wanted. And I'm sorry. Well done. Cheers. Much appreciated. Love it. You'd think that they would give them some cause to reassess the kind of things they've heard over the past 7 years. But as Mick Wright said on Twitter yesterday, but these people have a shorter memory as someone who has been bonked on the head with a cartoon hammer. Yeah, they're fucking around, but they're finding out now. It's God, I just can't fucking do it with these people.
the language and the right use of language, the right use of nuance. I mean, you yourself got into trouble, the Labour Party got into trouble over its alleged anti-Semitism, right? That's also about
And if you look here, we're like literally, like to stop the boats or betray Britain. This is the worst kind of possible language. This is exactly the same kind of thing. This fealty to the nation state, which is a fundamental part of fascist ideology, right? You might as well just say that unless we support legislation, we're betraying the Volk. Like, how much? Like, what more do you need to make these comparisons?
perceptions. And you're paying the price for that because you're not allowed to run as a Labour MP in the next election. So you know about the use of language.
The use of language is very, very important.
And did you make a mistake there yourself?
I don't think I did. What I was doing...
But the party thinks you did. The party you served for decades thinks you did.
Some people in the party don't agree with a lot of things, particularly...
True. People equating anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism are 100% anti-Semitic. Yes, Anthropy, correct?
The political views that I have. But first of all, I just think anti-Semitism is a vile and evil thing. And the language I used was, one anti-Semite in the Labour Party is one
Do you think he's bored of saying those phrases?
too many. That wasn't given publicity.
Right. I think it was actually, and I think it was even on this programme. So it has been, the BBC has been accused of buckling to the right-wing press and to this government. Do you think the Labour Party has buckled on issues like immigration, on issues like the strikes?
Yes, I do, no? Because I think that the response given by the Labour front bench to Suella Braverman's statement in Parliament earlier this week went on about the process and alleged failures of it and so on. It didn't, in my view, show the empathy that should be shown to desperate people, and also allowed the exaggeration of numbers to go on. 70,000 people sought asylum last year by this means. That is less than the number that attend a football match in a country of 65 million people. And they've got...
Do you have a link to that, JDM? That's psychotic, if so.
Got to be desperate to even put themselves in that danger. Can't we work with other European countries, work with the United Nations, work with the Human Rights and Refugee Councils on giving a safe route for people? After all, we were 20 years in Afghanistan, 10 years in Iraq. Many of these people are coming from countries where we have sent troops there.
But the point is that the humanity towards asylum seekers has gone out of fashion, hasn't it? I mean, in France, even in Germany, which has taken in huge numbers compared to us, and it's selective. So there's a massive amount of...
And things are only going to get worse, right? The amount of the amount of anti-immigrant rhetoric and anti-refugee rhetoric is only going to get worse over time, right? We're already seeing the rise of the far right, not just in the UK, where it's been given fully throated supported by the Conservative Party, but in far right parties challenging new centre right hegemony amongst Western liberal democracies as well, right? You're seeing Vox, we're seeing Chega, we're seeing Rassemblement National, Fratelli d'Italia, the Sweden Democrats, the FPO in Austria, right? These parties are the Alternative for Deutschland. Dan PJK with membership, thank you. It's much appreciated, right? We are seeing the rise of far-right parties all across Western Europe right now, everywhere. And this is only going to get worse as the failures of climate policy, the failures of interventionist policy, the failure of the failure of the continuing imperial pipelines that have extracted resources from these areas over the last century, for example. Though the refugee situation is only going to get worse. It's not getting better anytime soon. And the worse it gets, the more this far-right rhetoric is going to rise. We are living in dangerous times. And having a state broadcaster who won't let people critique that is so dangerous. Not only do we have that same ideology coming out of the entirety of the right-wing private press, to have the public broadcaster doing the same thing, it's so dangerous. Really, really dangerous. I don't know where it stops or how it stops, unless we suddenly have a massive sea change with regards to how people within the Western world view immigrants and refugees. We're in for we're in for socialism or barbarism, unfortunately, as people's living standards collapse. Obviously, it's much worse over here, where we're seeing much worse economic issues because of our unique economic position right now. That doesn't mean that it's also not going to happen in the same way in across Europe too. I mean, Automated Hero, I've been glad to see plenty of liberal types also falling out of love with Keir Starmer. The amount to which he is the amount of which that he is feeling like that he's managed to create this kind of unified front amongst liberals and centre-right conservative types. He's losing the parties of both of these very quickly, and unless he finds a voice, finds a backbone, finds some policies, finds an ideology, finds some fire, finds a cause to celebrate, his supposed 20-point lead is not going to last long. Well, yeah, exactly what I mean. There's the centre failing continually. So, according to this article that JDM has pointed out, is that there's been this big talks in France between Macron and Rishi Sunak, and for a lot of this time we'd been told that what they were going to do in France was find additional ways to try and process asylum seekers in France to confirm whether their claims were genuine, to be able to stop them from needing to go on the small boats to make their asylum claim in the UK. That's not fucking happening, because it's not even going to be a processing centre. It's a fucking detention centre. At 4 times the cost of the Rwanda plan, no less. I'm just beyond the pale. I can't deal with this anymore.
Of compassion for Ukrainians.
Yeah.
There's less compassion for some Afghans as well, especially those who serve British forces. There's a lot of less compassion for Somalis or Eritreans.
Well, indeed, and it's there's awful double standards at work here. I absolutely support and welcome Ukrainian.
I mean, it is double standards, Jeremy, but just call it what it is. It's racism. It's racism that Ukrainian refugees are accepted and Somalians are not. That's fundamentally it, right? It's the fundamental case. We've heard people saying this on Corland and LBC around the discussions around what people look like. It's just racism. It's just, like, loads of the people who are on those small boats are people who are fleeing Afghanistan. Do you think that the people who want to stop the boats give a shit about whether someone was fleeing the Taliban or fleeing the Iranian government or fleeing Assad or fleeing Daesh? No, they don't care. They'll treat them exactly the same way they treat people fleeing Sudan, people fleeing Eritrea, people fleeing Yemen. They all treat them exactly the same. The only people these people think are legitimate refugees are people fleeing the war in Ukraine, and the reason why is because they're fucking white. Yeah, exactly. As JDM points out in chat, 22 people evacuated in Afghanistan by the quote-unquote safe legal route that we had. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I pointed this out on Wednesday. It's genius politicking to have the faces of these policies both be brown people. Oh, it's lucky for the Conservative Party that both of these, I mean, to be fair, Suella Braverman is mixed race, Indian and African, as far as I'm aware, but Rishi Sunak is Indian, and they're both of Hindu ancestry, for example, both of which who come from a culture of people who are, and also both politically friendly with Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, who is also a fucking fascist, who wants to try and eliminate Islamism, or not Islamism, Islam in India, and wants to create a Hindu supremacist state. So why do you think that the people who are being the face of this particular policy are people who are already ideologically predisposed to dislike the predominantly Muslim people who are fleeing these wars as refugees in these small boats, but are very happy to accept Ukrainians? I wonder fucking why. I wonder why.
Refugees in this country, and they should be treated properly, and by and large they are. We should have the same attitude towards all other refugees. Why do people leave their homes and go in enormous danger in order to try to get to a place of safety? History is going to be very unkind to the politicians of the early part of the 21st century who descended into this ghastly rhetoric against people looking for a place of safety.
Let's end, and I know you're running out of time and have got to go, but let's end with a few quick questions. How damaged is the BBC?
And also, worth pointing out, just to reiterate for fucking idiots who want to comment in chat about why they have to come here and not anywhere else, we take fewer refugees than everywhere else. Gary Lineker was right about that one. And refugees do not have to stay in the same safe country. That's the whole point of the Refugee Convention, is to ensure that we don't have literally what we have now, where the vast majority of refugees are settling in Turkey and Turkey and Jordan, rather. And they shouldn't have to take all the refugees in the midst of a global crisis. This should be shared around, and the fact that Britain is trying to wash its hands of all of this shit that for half the time we fucking caused. Like, Afghanistan's our fucking fault, for example. And suddenly we're trying to wash our hands away of it. Oh, no, we have to deal with this stuff that's someone else's problem. Nonsense, despicable.
You see by all this?
Extremely damaged in public perception at a very dangerous time for them because of, after all, the whole licence renewal and everything else that's coming up in the next few years. I think it's extremely damaged.
Is there a way back for Gary Lineker?
I think Gary Lineker should be reinstated straight away to present Match of the Day. Gary Lineker is a big figure. I'm not saying he's bigger than the BBC, but he is very big, and the BBC ought to realise that.
And what about Tim Davie, the Director General of the BBC?
I think he should go. I don't think he should ever have been appointed. He's far too partisan.
Based.
Richard Sharp,
So
the Chairman of the
based.
BBC?
Likewise.
They should all go.
Both of those should go, and there should be much more independent, credible figures to head the BBC to show that it really is an independent public service broadcaster.
I mean, this is, colleagues of mine, friends of mine who work for the BBC, they feel, very conflicted by all this.
Yes.
They're in a tricky position. What do you say to, your ordinary BBC foot soldier who's out there, paid by the licence fee, not on a massive salary, trying to do their work?
I support them. I have many people in my constituency that work at the BBC. I've got a lot of time for them, but I think the solidarity shown by Ian Wright and others towards Gary Lineker is significant and very important. This is a turning point in the public debate about refugees.
Can you win the next election in your constituency, which you've been winning elections in for decades, without being a member of the Labour Party?
Listen, I'm not going to answer the question of whether I'm running as on what label, but I'm very confident I could win an election in Islington North, yes.
Based. Fucking based. So good. Right, oh.
Following his anti-British...
That's for later. So, yeah. Jeremy Corbyn just spitting straight facts. I couldn't add anything better to that. He's absolutely 100% correct. Everything that he said. All of those crony people need to go, replaced by genuine independence. 100% he's correct. And he's also correct in the damage to the BBC, although I would have gone further and repeat the claim I mentioned before. In the damage that's being done to the reputation of the BBC is fucking deliberate. It's 100% deliberate. It needs to get called out. It's so sad that Corbyn is shit on Ukraine and correct about everything else. I mean, I'll give him a pass on Ukraine because I think that what he's saying about it comes from a place of a desire to see peace, right? And I think that people calling him fucking Putin shit like that, that's obviously garbage, nonsense, smearing. But I do think that he is misguided in his opinions on Ukraine. But I think that's an acceptable loss for the remainder of his correct opinions and everything else. So that is all of the left-wing opinions that we've seen on the whole situation, both from myself and from the man himself, Jeremy Corbyn. Actually, some from Matt Fry as well there. Now we're going to move on to the best bit. The bit that we all love. The bit that the absolute pièce de résistance. We're gonna have to look at some right-wing takes. I have some right-wing takes on the Gary Lineker situation, and my God, there have been some dumb ones. We're gonna start off on Twitter, and then we're gonna move on to some takes on YouTube. So this first one that I quote tweeted because it was just so monumentally stupid, right? If you're passionately defending Gary Lineker's right to freedom of speech, but you didn't bother to utter a word to defend Salman Rushdie, J.K. Rowling, Maya Forstater, the Batley school teacher, and all other genuine victims of cancel culture, you're just a posturing fool. Right, so this is what's happening to Gary Lineker is not fucking cancel culture, and neither is what happened to Salman Rushdie either. I can't believe I'm having to say this, but a fatwa is not cancel culture, right? He was sentenced to death by the Ayatollah. That's not the same as people disagreeing with you on social media and deciding not to buy the video game that's based upon the book series that you wrote. These are not the same thing. Why the fuck she's including these people in the same breath is completely nonsensical. And also, when Gary Lineker made his comments outside of his professional capacity, it was his own personal Twitter account. There's nothing to do with the BBC. Unlike Maya Forstater, who essentially was engaging in workplace bullying, right? In her capacity as working in her office, she was throwing around anti-trans leaflets around her co-workers. That's not good work practice. That is workplace, but that's not the same fucking thing as tweeting from your private Twitter account. That's completely nonsensical. What I will agree with her is on the Batley Grammar School teacher, for example. I will say that I think that what happened to the Batley Grammar School teacher is ridiculous, right? But then again, I've always been of that position. So I don't know why you're trying to say that I'm already a hypocrite for fucking J.K. Rowling and Maya Forstater, right? What has happened? Who who's fired J.K. Rowling? Nobody. She's just been disagreed with on social media and had a failed boycott of a game that she's associated with. That is in no way similar to Salman Rushdie being sentenced to death by the fucking Ayatollah. No one's placed a fatwa on J.K. fucking Rowling. Also, Gary Lineker isn't being castigated for something morally reprehensible, so I don't even agree that it's the same in that case. I mean, obviously, but that's an ideological position we're taking Anatolian Plum. But from, like, the principle of quote-unquote free speech defenders, none of these things are linked other than Batley, Salman Rushdie, and Gary Lineker. This is completely fucking dumb. A gigantic false equivalence, right? Speaking of false equivalencies, right, we have Andrew Davies, the Welsh Conservative leader, saying, it says a lot that many in the media and political classes expressing solidarity with Gary Lineker were silent on Jeremy Clarkson. We know why. Yes, we know exactly why. The reason why is because Jeremy Clarkson, in his official capacity on the set of Top Gear, punched a producer, right? He literally assaulted a co-worker. That is not the same as someone tweeting an opinion on their own private Twitter account as a freelancer. These are not the same thing at all. These are, I can't, this is the holy fucking mother of false equivalencies. And the most insane take on this one is the common sense part of the Conservative Party, which obviously a complete misnomer if there ever was one, but whatever. People are trying to adopt common sense as essentially meaning anti-progressivism, which are framing that it basically means that anyone could imprint what they believe onto what common sense means, and therefore it's basically an open season for people to imprint their ideology onto something to create more consent to be able to identify with that particular point of view, for example. But not only is him being suspended for not breaking impartiality, as we've discussed, because the same thing didn't happen with Andrew Neil or Alan Sugar. They're also asking for a full apology without reservation and an fucking independent investigation. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is going on? Like, not only, apparently, it's not enough for these people to have their own cronies staffing huge parts of the BBC coverage everywhere, for example. And that's not good enough for these people. They also have to have anybody who disagrees with them in public just continually grovelling at their feet, grovelling and begging for forgiveness, while also having an official investigation. It's what the fuck is going on? Like, Norman Lamont is among the 36 parliamentarians demanding an investigation. Like, have they not seen the public response to this stuff? It's completely nonsensical. Absolutely nonsensical. What the hell is going on here? Anyway, those are the silly takes that I've seen from Twitter. But we're now going to move on to some clips from YouTube. Actually, I'm going to go with my R2C. I'm going to go with... So I think what's best to start with is we're going to start with Gary Lineker is no better than Donald Trump, says director of Defund the BBC. Now, what's worth pointing out is that I've covered Defund the BBC before, and these people are genuinely fucking insane. But this is somebody else. But it's worth pointing out that, in the wake of the fact that there's this kind of right-wing desire to paint the BBC as somehow being entirely politically biased, and off the back of all of these cronies being appointed into the higher echelons of the BBC structure, Defund the BBC are going to continually trying to say that they're still being controlled by the left-wing activist blob or whatever it is, whatever that might be. I don't even fucking know. So we'll watch it. We'll see what deranged opinions they have. We shall see. Or is Jeremy Kyle's hosting this as well? It's gonna be fun.
So Lineker, if we go back there, has almost, it seems, challenged the BBC. Yesterday he publicly declared that he will appear on Match of the Day on Saturday, despite the ongoing row over that social media thing. The presenter suggested that his anti-government tweets were his business. Yes, he compared it to Nazi Germany and people are up in arms. Suella Braverman, he says, storm in the teacup. However, it is said this morning, and we could be wrong, that insiders at the corporation don't know what to do, because free speech is one thing, but he's gone too far. But he's such a big star that it would be wrong to do anything. To talk more about this is, I love this lady, campaign director of Defund the BBC, Rebecca Ryan. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. It's weird. It's a weird feeling when you get into the 9 o'clock hour because we've been up since about 4. Gary Lineker, speak to me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I think Gary Lineker essentially he's a troll, isn't he? That's what he is. He's no better or worse.
Is that what? Yeah, literally, yeah. I can't believe you would criticize my dehumanizing policy on refugees that breaks international law, international refugee conventions, is in violation of the European Court of Human Rights. Like, yeah, that's just trolling. It's just trolling, isn't it? Disagreeing with these political policies. I cannot believe that. I told you we were in for some deranged opinions, folks.
Worse than Donald Trump, really. But he'd like everybody to think that he's virtue signaling, that he's, sort of elevated to the level of the gods. But what he is a troll. And generally, you don't have to pay for trolls. But the thing is with the BBC, and it's taxing of people who simply want to watch live TV.
Holy shit! This was the person who was speaking with Julia Hartley-Brewer, who said that it was infantilizing to Shamima Begum to say that she didn't deserve to get statutory raped. Like, this person is fucking demented. You're right, Bilderberg. How you doing?
Not
True,
just
true. This is chud phonology. It really is.
BBC, but any other live broadcast TV, is in order for them to be able to hit up the British public for that, they have a charter, which means that they are obliged to produce content that is unbiased, that is representative of all parts of the UK, and that is unifying. And that's the key word that I think everybody's missing from the charter, is that it's unifying. Well, Gary Lineker and his trolling, he's just divisive. He's clearly biased. He's done this.
Yes, did he do that on the BBC as part of his official capacity? No, it was done on his private fucking Twitter account. You cretin. You fucking clown. I can't believe that you'll just go, yeah, all the BBC, just anywhere in the BBC charter say that Gary Lineker can't have his own opinions outside of his official capacity of hosting fucking Match of the Day. Yeah, and if you want to believe the BBC is unifying, why is it photoshopping Jeremy Corbyn as Voldemort? Why is it painting Rishi Sunak as fucking Superman? Come on.
Over and over again.
What do you say, though? What do you say? If I take Piers' view, and I'm with you, Rebecca, right? And I think unifying, I haven't heard that this week, and I think that's a really interesting thing. I'll ask you about a couple of programmes in the pipeline in just a tick.
How can you be unifying about an incredibly divisive fucking issue, for example? Because, people for defund the BBC idiots would probably look at something like a discussion around whether or not the new law breaks UN conventions or breaks international law or is in violation of the European Court of Human Rights, for example. Like basic fact-based descriptions, they would probably look at that and say that is politically partisan to describe the fact of what it is. Gary Lineker walked into a Burger King, and as I was about to take a bite of my burger, he took it out of my hands, took the top off the bun off, and spat it in and threw it back at me. He's a monster. True, Comrade Junk. I heard that he does that all the time to everybody.
Let's talk about the argument that says that we are a democracy. Free speech is at the very essence of who we are as a country and people. He made those comments on Twitter. He did not make them on air. Why is he not entitled to have his opinion, whether you agree with it or not, and I don't? Why is he not entitled to have that on Twitter and keep his job on the BBC?
I can't believe Jeremy Kyle is the fucking voice of reason. What planet are we on?
BBC.
I mean, this is pure gaslighting from Gary Lineker, because he knows full well, which is why he does this, that Twitter isn't just some small corner of the internet. Twitter dictates the news cycle. The reason we're talking about this.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it dictates the news cycle or not. He is saying his opinion on Twitter and he is well within his rights to do so. Just as Andrew Neil is, and just as the BBC said that he was right to do so when he was pulled up on the perceived impartiality of the BBC, tweeting his own political opinions whilst also being in control of a bunch of the political output happening on the BBC because he was a freelancer. And Andrew Neil works in an actual political capacity for the BBC. Gary Lineker is just a fucking sports presenter. To say this is gaslighting, to state like genuine facts about the state of what constitutes someone's private and or official capacity is nonsense. This is what the fuck is this person talking about? What have they been
over and over again is because people are outraged because it has reached every single corner of the UK, because the mainstream media pick up what's happening on Twitter. So it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, he's famous. Yeah, well done. Right? I don't know if Elton John tweeted it out. I'm sure it would be all over the news as well. Come on, this is nonsense.
Just to sort of say, oh, this is just a little tweet that I put out on this little social media platform. I don't know what all the hoo-ha's about. That's pure gaslighting from Gary Lineker.
When
You
you
know, he
sign
knows.
when you sign a contract, you would know far more than me. I mean, I'd never been near the BBC. I wouldn't want to. When he signed a contract,
This is the fucking right, absolutely. Right, hang on a minute. There is only one thing that you can say in response to these fucking rightoids who all kick up a massive fucking fuss at the idea that anyone who said racist stuff might get fired from their job, for example. Now, I don't think that that's the thing that should happen. I think that we should be people's actual employment should be protected outside of what they say in their to some extent, right? There should be some things where there should be some effect that might have on your employment if you do or say something that is incredibly egregious. But I think that has to be something the vast minority of cases. In the vast majority of instances, you should never lose your job for things you do or say outside of your capacity as someone who works. For example, that should be a really, really high bar for that to happen. And the right wing have been pissing blood at the idea that people who said the N-word on Twitter have had it screenshot and sent to their place of work and lost their job. I think that's bad too. But these are the same people that have been pissing blood about that. And now the same thing is happening to Gary Lineker for something far, far less controversial. And now they're all up in arms because it disagrees with their political worldview. And the only thing that comes to mind, the only things that come to mind is this clip, which it never, ever
I made a Trump assassination joke on Twitter, and all these right-wing, supposedly free speech defenders all copied in the fucking FBI, the Secret Service, all that lot to get me arrested. Arrest this man. Arrest this man. This is not a joke. Arrest this man. Arrest this man. Arrest this man. That's all it was. This man should be arrested. This man should be in Guantanamo. You look at the profiles. Free speech, free speech. I joke about whatever I want. I'm an edgy boy. See, if you don't like it, well, you should unfollow. Liars, charlatans, full of shite. They can fuck off. Free speech, nothing.
I mean, yeah, well, considering that Jeremy Kyle lost his job as presenter of the Jeremy Kyle show for things that happened in his official capacity, right? Someone who was on the fucking show killed themselves. They went full and hero. And that's why he got fired from his position. Again, that was in his genuine official capacity.
Robin, my mate in Newcastle, says surely that contract would have said you have to be impartial, and he's broken that. Is that true? Because if that's the case, why aren't his bosses coming out and criticising him, or at least making him apologise? Are they scared of him, or does it in fact...
Why has Andrew Neil continually been protected in his entire time, being an incredibly prominent political figure who also tweets out his opinions on politics at the same time? Why? Why is there a difference between these two? And there is a difference between these two, and the reason why is that these people are happy when it's right wingers doing it, and they hate it when it's not even left wingers, fucking centrist liberal types like Gary Lineker.
Suit the rhetoric that they want out there because they're all left-wing loonies anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know the specifics of his actual contract, but the point is that the BBC has this obligation.
Hang on a minute, what did she just say there?
Contract, but the point is that the BBC...
She doesn't know the specifics of his actual contract. Well, there you go. You finally fucking admitted it. You're a campaign director of a group that's supposed to know everything about these issues. You've come on in your official capacity as a spokesperson for Defund the BBC onto Talk TV to try and talk about the issues with regards to Gary Lineker's whether or not he should or shouldn't be suspended by the BBC. And you haven't even bothered to look up the fucking terms of his contract. Thank you for the resub, Dr. Firestar. Thank you. What the fuck are you doing? You're supposed to know this. Why are you come on to discuss this if you've not even looked into what his contract says? I've done that. I know that his contract says that he should be able to do this because we know the exact same thing happened with Andrew Neil, and Andrew Neil's free speech on Twitter was defended by the BBC because of his position as a freelancer. My voice is not in good enough state to shout like this. Please don't say anything more stupid than this. I'm almost certain that she will. Well, the social movement of resistance needed was an emblem, not a voice, an image of respectability that resonated with the general public and could be replaced and could be echoed by a meta-lucidity, epistemic heroes, and the wide range of differently positioned agents, including mainstream subject. Interesting, yeah.
has this obligation, in order for it to keep the TV license, it has an obligation to be impartial and to be unifying. And Gary Lineker is their top
Yes, yes, they can do when, in the actual output it puts out, and not when someone who's a freelancer for the company tweets something out in his own private capacity. I'm sorry, you cannot square this circle. You cannot. I don't know how you try it. How hard you try to triangulate this position. It's not going to fucking work. The square peg will not go in the round hole, Rebecca.
star. The British public are paying him 1.35 million a year. And it doesn't really matter about the terms of his personal contract or what have you. It's about the BBC and the platform that the BBC has given to Gary Lineker. And he knows full.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm sure Gary Lineker never had a platform before hosting Match of the Day. It's not like he was a footballer at the fucking World Cup. We've all seen him shit on we all saw him shit on the pitch, right? It's just as if the only reason why Gary Lineker was famous in the first place was because of his presenting Match of the Day. I'm sorry, he was a national treasure before you were ever a political figure, Rebecca. Like, shut the fuck up. Why is her head so rectangular? It's because she's fucking inbred. Inbred as fuck. Sorry, that's rude of me, but I don't give a shit at this point. These people are ghouls, and I am beyond being nice to them. Exactly, it was Golden Boot winner as well. Like, and even if he was only being made famous by the BBC, that still would not change the fact that he is just a freelancer. His contract, as it is, means that he has every single right to tweet in his private capacity. And even, quite frankly, I would go even further than that. Even if he was a centrally contracted person, and his Twitter account was still his personal Twitter account, in no way linked to his official capacity, for example. Like, you'll see, for example, like Ros Atkins, who I follow on Twitter. His Twitter account is BBC Ros Atkins. It's specifically him tweeting in his official capacity as a BBC reporter. He should not be politically partisan. He should be entirely impartial when tweeting, for example. Right? But that's not the case with Gary Lineker. It's just the Gary Lineker Twitter account for him to say things in his personal capacity as Gary Lineker. Oh yeah, 100% Ferrisol. Like, the double standards are genuinely crazy, and the fact that the centrists are just sat through all the 4 years of balls to the wall McCarthyism. I hope they're enjoying the purges that they so richly deserve, and they got one that they wanted and what they got. Simple as that. But yeah, even if there was someone centrally contracted with the BBC, unless they were tweeting out from an official BBC account, I don't think it should matter either. But luckily that's not the case, because Gary Lineker is a freelancer tweeting in his personal capacity with an account that is no way linked to the BBC.
Well, exactly what he's doing, and the reason that he'll get such a huge kickback from every little tweet that he puts is because he is the biggest pay star of the BBC, and because the BBC is funded by British taxpayers. And I think, it's all very well if the BBC aren't going to punish him, that's great, because actually Gary Lineker is our greatest spokesperson that defund the BBC. Every time he says something like this, we get people come rushing to us to find out how they can stop paying the BBC. And
people are saying that the way to get rid of this whole thing is to boycott Match of the Day, but I would suggest that people do not, whatever Gary Lineker might tell us, watch the Match of the Day for Gary Lineker. They watch it for the football. It is an interesting argument. Rebecca, if we could take it further, you were talking about the BBC and its charter. A couple of things. You mentioned
Emily Maitlis has been having a field day on our podcast about the Lineker shit, going, I told you about the BBC being captured by the Tories. It's weird, super weird how... it's crazy how Emily Maitlis is only noticing now that the BBC is being captured by the Tories, yet was very happy to sit in front of the fucking Photoshop Jeremy Corbyn. Same with fucking Kirsty Walk. This is not unique, as the right does self-indulge itself by framing premises which are valid within the world where they live, but are fundamentally unsound outside their world by ignoring or contorting the facts. It's very true. I mean, the left will do that as well, right? The amount of times that I have just assumed that everyone else agrees with me that landlords shouldn't exist, and then they look like I'm mad when I tell them about the gloriousness of Chairman Mao's land reform, and then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I have to have a discussion about this. Cool, if you don't like BBC, don't watch, cancel your licence fee, then take a permanent holiday away from your confected outrage. 100%, right? Yeah, like, sure. Like, if people want to keep paying... I mean, I don't ever watch the BBC. I don't have a TV licence. I never watch BBC Channel 4, any of that stuff. I don't watch iPlayer. I watch YouTube basically all the time. So I don't have a TV licence because I don't do any of that stuff. I don't even watch fucking BBC iPlayer. They're none of that. And you know, it's because I don't have any interest in doing so, because the best content is elsewhere nowadays, apart from like his dark materials. Gary's made a similar comment in 2021. Lineker tweeted, "So Ofcom have ruled that a neo-Nazi calling for the extermination of Jews on a radio station isn't hate speech because he was challenged. One of this happening to our country." I mean, well, there you go. That's BBC impartiality all over the place now. And also, the BBC also cancelled David Attenborough over a rightoid backlash. It's the Dixie Chicks all over again. Like the right wing fully embracing the idea that they are the real cancel culture. They fucking love cancelling people for wrong thing.
Unifying content, unbiased, but that word unifying jumped out at me because we were doing this on JK Live this week. A couple of programmes. One, Bill Cosby, that documentary with that horrendous woman, literally said, talking about sex with, I don't know if you saw the part, she was talking, I mean, I'm not even going to go into it.
Like, if you want everything to be unifying, then you will literally have no content left. Because everyone will disagree with something that's being said, just like with the David Attenborough stuff. Like, we can't broadcast David Attenborough because it might trigger the climate change skeptics. I'm tough shit. Science says this, you're wrong. Like, fuck off. We are the most surrealist of Nadirs right now. Oh, and shit, yeah! On Fiona Bruce on Question Time. Like saying that it was just a one-off when Stanley Johnson committed violence against his partner. And she's like a representative of a domestic violence charity. It's unreal, absolutely unreal to me. And this notwithstanding the absolute paucity of left voices on Question Time in totality. How you'll have there'll be like a left-wing celebrity, for example. Like the last time I remember a genuine left-wing politician being on the programme, outside of like members of the SNP maybe, or they're just kind of centre-left, was like Richard Bergen. Like how very few times, yet they'll have Tom Harwood and Julia Hartley-Brewer and Nigel Farage on fucking all the fucking time. All the time. Absolute garbage. And this is the same Stanley Johnson who fucking groped Caroline Noakes. It's beyond the pale. It really is. Usually the left-wing person on Question Time is some kind of entertainer. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, sometimes they'll have, I think they had, like, there's the Ash Sarkos segment that I responded to. They had, like, a genuine left-wing journalist. But outside of that, like, when was the last time Owen Jones was on Question Time? He spends far more time on the right stuff than he does on, or on the Jeremy Vine show than he does on Question Time. Yeah, the fact that the Moral Maze hosts some fucking Melanie Phillips or people is ridiculous. Although at least on any questions, they don't have such like tight control over the kind of people who call in. Obviously, they'll still filter people out, but Question Time always filters the kind of audience that they get. Or at least with any questions, it's a little less scripted than the Question Time is.
Was graphic and it was...
Well, to be fair, JDM, I don't think they're trying to frame the left as clowns by having on entertainers, for example. What they are trying to do is politically delegitimize it, make it look like the left is solely the realm of student politics and activists. The terms that you hear from agrocentrists all the time, that anything to the left of fucking Tony Blair is student politics, or we don't want to be a party of protest, we want a party of governance, as if you can't have a left-wing governance, right? You hear that all the time, and that's why they're trying to do it by only booking left-wing entertainers rather than politicians or journalists.
Completely and utterly wrong. And also, you look at the Jimmy Savile bio, that Steve Coogan film, that's been on the shelf for 2 years. Even victims have come out and said this is completely disgraceful. People are now saying his relationship with the now king, that's why it's being shelved. Are you telling me that a documentary on a vile paedophile, Jimmy Savile, or a documentary about Cosby and sexual abuse with some sex therapist saying, and don't quote me on this, but it was about sex with people who aren't conscious, it was absolutely outrageous. Are you telling me that that's unifying content and I want to be paying for that?
Exactly. I mean, the BBC are literally scraping around in the darkest corners of the internet.
I think it is probably actually, yeah, I think it is unifying content to say that, child sexual abuse is bad. But you see what I mean when I said earlier that this idea that everything has to be unifying will leave you with no programs left. I mean, that's clearly what Jeremy Kyle wants. I have a fundamental moral opposition to the existence of Homes Under the Hammer. So that's not unifying content anymore. Homes Under the Hammer has to go. Entire nation breathes a sigh of relief. Was it slow today?
Looking for people with these extreme views. And like you say, that isn't unifying. It's not representative. And, they have this obligation in order so that they can go around and say to people, if you're watching any live broadcast TV, if you're watching Sky Sport, if you're watching ITV as it's broadcast, then you have to pay us. And this is a tax on the British people. And people know now how you can get out of it. If you're watching catch up and on demand, you don't have to pay the BBC. But the thing is, what the BBC needs to realise, if they want to make that kind of content, well, that's fine. If they can find an audience out there that's willing to voluntarily pay for it.
Well, then we come to it. Should the BBC be a subscription service? Is that what you, Rebecca, and the Defund the BBC is arguing for? Because if that's the case, I wonder, it would be interesting to see whether anybody would actually bloody well watch it. But you'd at least be saying to people, you can make that choice rather than being told, you have to pay this money or you can't watch anything and we'll tell you what you're going to watch.
Absolutely, or be funded by advertising. I mean, it's not really for us to say how they should be funded. That's up to them, how they think they can get a paying audience.
Again, and the reason why these people exist to try and undermine the BBC is they want to turn it into a subscription model, they want to privatise it, they want to turn it into just another tool of capitalist media hegemony to be able to be done for the good of whatever future shareholders they believe that it should be sold off to. That's it. They don't want a public service broadcaster. They want yet another right-wing capitalist mouthpiece that will continually will continually parrot the same kind of viewpoints that they already believe in. It's as simple as that. I don't mind hearing things I disagree with on the BBC. That's fine. As long as they're being presented in factually and they're being and proportionally, right? Where we're not trying to make false equivalencies between completely irreconcilable positions, one of which is dumb and one of which is sensible. As long as we're having genuine discussion between proportional opinions, that's fine. That's good. Admirable even. But what people both seem to be calling for is every single piece of, mildly contentious content on the BBC to be excised, and that makes no fucking sense. I didn't know that, Iron Mage. I will pretend I didn't view that comment.
Wants to pay for them, and whether that's subscription, which is the way a lot of broadcasters are going, then that's absolutely fine. But that's down to them. But the main thing is they're producing content and coming out with views and pushing an agenda that the majority of British people don't agree with, and therefore they can't go around bullying vulnerable people. On
what views is it that the British public don't agree with that they're pushing out? Do you want to claim which one that is?
Their doorsteps and forcing them to pay the product that they just do not want.
Listen, I really, really appreciate it. Somebody just said to me, oh, Richie's arrived in Paris. I don't care if he's arrived in Paris, unless he's got his checkbook out, and then I'll get very angry. What do you think out on the streets, Rebecca? Seriously, what is the feeling about defunding?
Well, again, you're right. I think it's Anatolian Plum. These right-wingers, they genuinely have this fundamental belief that they are the voice of the silent majority, when what they really aren't. They are the voice of an incredibly vocal and irritating minority. The vocal minority probably most of them don't fucking care. It's the actual thing. What's the point of only broadcasting things that the majority already agree with? Well, yeah, exactly. Like, that would also be boring and stupid. Like, this person's absolutely driving me around the bend. Absolutely insane. It's not quite as insane as the Shamima Begum discussion with Julia Hartley-Brewer, but it's pretty up there. It's pretty up there.
The BBC is it an opinion that's gathering popularity, or is there mass support for the BBC, or is your organisation tracking? What's the situation?
Yeah, so we see a huge amount of people are cancelling their TV licenses. Every time Gary Lineker says something like this, we get a huge influx of people asking us how they can, what their rights are, what they can get away with watching without paying. People are really, really cross, and this is built up over years. Particularly emphasised by the BBC's coverage.
Okay, so should we get a quick fact check of the world that she inhabits and how she's just an echo chamber bubble. BBC, popularity 60%, disliked 15%, right? Plus 45. It's very, very clear that she is in like a super minority with this hatred of the BBC that she has.
Coverage of Brexit, we had during Brexit, people who voted for it were painted as racist, and too old, and basically hanging around too long. There's a lot of really.
I mean, A, citation needed, that's what the BBC was saying specifically. But also, like, those were the demographics that voted highly to leave the European Union. Both older people and racists were more likely to vote to leave than to remain. Right? That's just a fact, right? Obviously, it's not in no way indicative of the entirety of the Vote Leave campaign or the Vote Leave voter base. 100% no. And were there some levels of older people and or racists who voted to remain in the European Union? Almost certainly. But you have to understand what these demographics overwhelmingly did indeed vote for. And the BBC describing those facts that trigger you should not care about your feelings, unfortunately.
Horrendous views that were being put forward and given a platform by the BBC. So that feeling has grown over those years. And now, every time the BBC takes a step wrong, we get a huge influx of people as supporters and finding out how they can cancel their TV licence. So the BBC can carry on with its head in the sand, and it just hurries along its demise, because more and more people are realising that if you watch on demand and catch up, as long as it isn't BBC iPlayer, you don't need a TV licence. So you don't have to pay for this. And it's just the way that people are consuming content now anyway. So it's just going to hurry it along.
And actually, just to finish it off, we started with Lineker, and I think this is a really salient point. Other television presenters have lost their jobs because of, their freedom of expression. Our own Piers lost his job at ITV because he called Meghan Markle a liar. Is he entitled to that opinion? Absolutely. We know what happened.
Did Piers Morgan get fired for that, or did he leave voluntarily? Let me find out. Hang on a minute. Yeah, he didn't get fired. He left voluntarily. Piers Morgan has left ITV's Good Morning Britain following a row. Hang on a minute. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, ITV announced the decision. Sorry, what did they say? Oh, Piers Morgan has decided now is the time to leave Good Morning Britain on ITV. Yeah, he fucking left of his own accord. He didn't get fired. He didn't get thrown out. He left because he wanted to. He did it of his own fucking volition. This is just a straight fucking lie, Jeremy.
Happened there, right? Clarkson, yes, many will say, quite rightly, that the tone of the article was wrong, and I would agree with that. But it's how you define freedom of speech. Gary Lineker winds people up, right? Because he looks smug when he's doing it, and he seems to come from that position where I'm doing fine.
Yeah. I'm smugly defending the human rights of incredibly vulnerable people. Yeah, I'm smug in my opinion that removing people from anti-slavery protections is fucking inhumane. Like, yeah, sure. If that's smug, then I guess I'm smug. Which, to be fair, I am.
But I'm going to spend my entire life moaning about how unfairly people less fortunate than me are treated. Well, give your money away, Gary. That's just
I mean, he should give his money away. He's far too rich. But yeah, absolutely. Like, Jeremy Kyle is the smuggest person. As someone who has watched a lot of the fucking Jeremy Kyle show, I have watched a lot of that program in my time. Sorry, guys. There was a time period in which I had nothing to do at 10:30 in the morning. I'm sorry. I watched the Jeremy Kyle show, and he is a fucking smug ass prick. The smuggest of smug pricks.
My opinion, but I think the chat about the BBC is interesting, Rebecca, and I don't think it goes away. I think that people will shine a light ever strongly on it, and I think that's a good thing, and I really, really appreciate you being on the show this morning. Rebecca Ryan from the Defund the BBC campaign. Just
absolutely nonsense. Hang a minute. Ooh. Let me... there's more content in there. No, pause. There we go. Right. Where are we moving on to? Right. My R2C, friend of the show. Let's watch what he has to say about the Gary Lineker issue.
Following his anti-British rant on Twitter, the millionaire presenter Gary Lineker has been suspended from the BBC. But
Anti-British. Again, you see why this is... You can see why people are calling this fascistic rhetoric, where you disagree with a single policy from the government and suddenly you're an enemy of the nation. You're betraying the nation. You are not showing due fealty to the nation state. You're anti the nation state. That's a dangerous fucking rhetoric. Really dangerous rhetoric. You heard it here first. Human rights are anti-British. Well, if that's not... I mean, to be fair, that's probably true at this point, quite frankly, where so many people seem to want to defend specifically British culture as one in which we have fucking disdain for human rights. Which, again, that's not British culture. The fucking conventions we're violating were helped set up and drafted in the wake of World War II by the British as part of the United Nations.
since the announcement was made earlier, we noticed a bit of a problem with the BBC statement. Welcome back to the channel. Another breaking news story for you guys. You must have heard by now. The last hour or so we had Gary Lineker, the millionaire presenter of the BBC and Match of the Day, who has repeatedly broken the BBC guidelines on impartiality and professionalism, has officially been suspended. Now, when they made the first announcement, it was quite interesting, the wording of it, but it kind of changed shortly after because it was challenged by some people. We're going to talk about that in a second. First things first. So those who on the political left were...
I'm always so shocked, right, by how... Like, this guy's fucking, what, 278,000 subscribers? Where's the charisma? Who's watching this? Who's watching this and being entertained by him? Obviously, I'm watching it at 1.25 times speed. This guy's not engaging at all. What the fuck is going on here? How are people tuning in? 55,000 people have watched this in a day from his large subscriber count. And he's like, a minute in here and I'm already bored. I'm already bored of this man. How have people got past the 30-second mark for this to be then promoted in the YouTube search algorithm? Like, what? Who's entertained by this stuff? Sargon of Akkad is far more charismatic than this man. As much as I think that Sargon of Akkad is horrendous as a human being, I'm not going to be mean enough to say that he's as uncharismatic as my R2C. It's like Gutfeld in America. There's no talent on the right, so you get completely rubbish people getting loads of views because there's nobody else. And also because they're happy to throw money at anybody who will parrot whatever talking points they've got. But the thing is that doesn't even apply for my R2C, because I know for a fact that he's entirely fan funded. Like, this is the only genuine grassroots right wing YouTube channel on the fucking planet, and people pay for this shit. What's going on?
Saying that this is cancel culture. I'm not really sure you know the definition of cancel culture, you idiotic snowflakes. This is basically about professionalism and employment guidelines and rules. The BBC have their own royal charter. It's their own problem.
I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm done. Bye. The right wing were literally saying the exact same thing about anybody who had the same kind of opinions that got criticised and then had that reported in their official capacity. I'm losing my fucking mind. These people have no fucking principles. No principles whatsoever. What's going on? Yes, this is what the left have been saying about cancel culture the entire time, that it was just new people receiving consequences for their actions. But in this case, it doesn't even apply because it was private capacity, not his official capacity. I just cannot get around the fact that right wingers are all fucking stupid. They're just all idiots. They're all just genuinely stupid, or liars, or grifters. One of the only right wingers whose opinions I respected, despite disagreeing, was Peter Hitchens, and he was out tweeting today that the Nazis were socialists and left wing, and I'm like, well, that's fucking another one gone, another one fucking idiot. Don't have to listen to their opinions anymore. It's not stupid, they just don't want the rules to apply to their people. That too, obviously. who's this? What right wingers are there left even to listen to at this point? They're all idiots or grifters.
Have that. If they don't want it, they could leave the state dependency and they could turn into an independent private outlet and they could do whatever they want. I don't care. As long as they don't break the Ofcom rules, I don't really care. Now, the issue with this is the BBC firstly said, Gary Lineker to step back from presenting Match of the Day. So, the wording of this is different. This suggests or implies that
Peter Oborne is the one for Middle East Eye Farasol. Nowadays, I wouldn't call, I mean, maybe he's like a very traditional conservative, but he seems like a social democrat these days.
Gary Lineker himself is having a row with the BBC and he decided to step back until they get things sorted. That's what it sounds like. Following that, we then had, ironically, the Sky News people finding more information saying Sky News now understands that the BBC's statement on Gary Lineker is incorrect. Gary Lineker has not agreed to step back and has instead been taken off air as he's unwilling to apologise for his comments this week on social media.
Well, that's, I mean, that is the, I believe that is the case, but even so, like, he shouldn't apologise. Fuck it. He made, again, a tweet in his private capacity. Fuck it. Guys. Yeah, if Gary had turned to the camera midway through Match of the Day and in other news the government, other news the government is fascistic, maybe I could see why the few feathers would be ruffled. Yeah, like exactly, and that's the whole point of this thing. Like the fact that Gary Neville was not reprimanded by the BBC for but it was the BBC, it was an ITV, I forget which one it was, for making political statements about Qatar, like.
Just a bit of a reminder for those of you in case you missed it, in case you were away. When we had Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, announcing her new plans to stop illegal migration boats and ban illegal entries to the country, Gary Lineker went on Twitter, started having a bit of a rant, and he basically compared the British public and the British society to the 1930s Germany. Yes, if you believe...
No, he was discussing the rhetoric around this coming from the government, right? Although I would say that, we're on our way there. Like we are seeing similar kinds of, the bubblings of the levels to which the other is being dehumanized amongst the general population as well. The ability for a government using the state mouthpiece to be able to drive the narrative to make these things. I mean, we saw the Knowsley riots, for example. There clearly are deliberately trying to stoke up these tensions using this inflammatory language. And even then, Suella Braverman has touted the cultural Marxism conspiracy theory, which is a literal neo-Nazi conspiracy theory called cultural Bolshevism, which then was taken up by, mass murderer Anders Breivik. And he was the justification for him committing a terrorist attack in which he killed, 70 children, or 70 teenagers, whatever it was, on a youth camp for the Arbeiter Party. Like, the parallels are so fucking obvious. And again, like, the comment that he was making was clearly directed at the government and the government rhetoric, but then I know that the government rhetoric then doesn't filter down to the population. Like, of course it fucking does. But of course, right-wingers don't believe in manufactured consent. They believe that obviously these fuckers are all praxeologists and believe everyone's always engaging in purposeful behaviour that's within their own self-interest. You fuckers, you capitalists are the ones who invented fucking advertising. You don't genuinely believe people act in their own self-interest, otherwise you wouldn't spend this money on advertising in the first place.
Believe in border security and protection and national security, and then you are a German from the 1930s, according to...
Why is border security necessarily mean that we have to remove people's protections from new slavery laws? Like, why is that the case? What is marrying these two ideas together, Maya? Please educate me, Maya, Tusi viewers, in the comments. Why is the only way that we can ever actually maintain border security or national security is by removing desperate people's rights to be able to be free from slavery? Like, genuinely fight. Any response to that? People in the comments in future, let me fucking know.
Gary Lineker and the Labour Party, because we're going to get to the Labour Party in a second, because the Socialists have also released a statement. You will be shocked to hear what they actually had to say. I'm going to get into that for us in a sec. First thing says, this was the moment when on Channel 5 News, they announced, they basically texted Gary Lineker live on air to find out whether he's actually decided to step back or if he's been suspended. Let's go to this beautiful piece of Gold TV.
It's one of those strange situations where I'm actually texting the man himself at the moment, and
Yeah, like which Labour Party socialists, or the ones that have all been expelled or purged from the party, Maya?
I've asked Gary Lineker the question about whether he is stepping back or whether the BBC have told him to step back, and I've told him that if he responds to me that I will read out that text on air.
Okay, so
there's one word in there I can't use, but he has said no, they've told me I have to step back.
So it's not his choice.
Yeah, Gary Lineker wants to continue to present Match of the Day and is not apologising for what he said, but he says it's a BBC decision to force him to not present.
Oopsie BBC. I don't understand why they decided to change the wording to somehow put the burden on Gary Lineker himself. Be proud. They decided to take him off air. Be proud as BBC bosses that for once you did the right thing and you're suspended.
No, they did the fucking wrong thing. I understand that you're just happy whatever benefits your. I mean, as someone was pointing out in chat, right? All you believe in is power. Hypocrisy, no. Principles, no. Just using the tools of power to your advantage. And quite frankly, I wish the left did this more often, because the right clearly fucking don't do it ever. The right clearly don't care, and they're just happy to do it regardless of the consequences. And it's like, no, you just want to be able to have the power to be able to remove people who you disagree with, right? And you're happy to have people, at the top of the BBC who are, have incredibly close links to the Conservative Party. You have no issue with that. You have no issue with that. Someone tweets something out in their private capacity. Where were you calling for Andrew Neil to be removed? Nowhere ever. They've never done this. As soon as Gary Lineker in his private capacity tweets something that they see an expression of disagreement with a particular political policy, suddenly fucking the knives are all out now. Nonsense.
A rule breaker, essentially. I don't understand how weak they are. They are sitting on the fence. They're trying to appease everybody. On the one hand, they're doing what they have to do. On the other hand, they don't really want to annoy the BBC supporters, if they have any supporters. I don't understand how it works, by the way, with the BBC.
I mean, yeah, the 60% of people who do, the super majority of people who are in support of the BBC, when you look at the YouGov polling,
But this is where we are. So, the BBC basically said that it's been in extensive discussions with Gary and team in recent days, and has decided that he will step back from presenting Match of the Day until we've got an agreed and clear position on his use of social media. That was the original statement, which is now we know it's not really, it's a bit misleading. That's not what happened. He just refused to come and apologize, so they had to get rid of him for now. They continued by saying that when it comes to leading our football and sports coverage, Gary is second to none. Haha, okay. We have never said that Gary should be in an opinion-free zone, or that he can't have a view on issues that matter to him, but we have said that he should keep well away from taking sides on party political issues or political controversies.
So yeah, he shouldn't be in a opinion-free zone, but he'd also should not voice his opinions. Brilliant, 100%, love it, fantastic.
Then we had Ian Wright, another football pundit, who said, well, in solidarity with Gary Lineker, he said, everybody knows that what Match of the Day means to me, but I have told the BBC that I will not be doing it tomorrow. Solidarity. Ian Wright, read the BBC guidelines before shouting solidarity like a communist officer from Kremlin. It's embarrassing.
A communist officer from the Kremlin? What, the famous capitalist Russia? You've not heard of the fucking shock doctrine? It was interesting you weren't saying this when he was making party political statements about Jeremy Corbyn, obviously. Again, there's no principles, no nothing. Law binds, does not protect, every single fucking time. Never change, Conservatives. Never fucking change. He hasn't taken a side on a party political issues because the Labour Party supports the anti-small boat shits. True, Comrade Jock. Clearly Gary Lineker was an SNP shill the whole time. Is it me, or do right-wing people just try and embody the Facebook laugh-cry reaction almost everything they say? Or 100%, right? You can tell if someone's reaction is a boomer reaction or a zoomer reaction. If it's a boomer, they'll use the laugh-cry emoji. If it's a zoomer, they'll use the skull emoji, and then you only have to pay attention to one of those comments. And again, like, you're absolutely right. Like, Labour they love the anti-small boat shit. And he was discussing the rhetoric of specific politicians. None of his tweets mentioned the Conservative Party or the Labour Party. Obviously, it's a controversial political issue, but it's only controversial because the policy itself is so fucking obscene, and then it should be fucking called out. It should be called out. Keir Starmer supporting Gary Lineker while his shadow Home Secretary opposes him shows real joined-up thinking. Well, Keir Starmer only supported Gary Lineker after doing an emergency focus group and finding out that the mythical swing voters that they're desperate to attract actually support Gary Lineker in this issue. So, just waiting to see which way the wind is blowing, and then effortlessly pointing in that direction, Ferrisol.
You're embarrassing everybody. Now, speaking of embarrassing moments, let's go to the Labour Party. What is our lovely socialist group has to say about this issue? Of course.
I love how we will continually try and claim the Labour Party as socialist when they're just literally a fucking neoliberal party at this point. Like, everyone I don't like is they're red, they must be socialists, right?
They're taking Gary's side. The BBC's cowardly decision to take Gary Lineker off air is an assault on free speech in the face of political pressure. Tory politicians lobbying to get people sacked for disagreeing with government policies should be laughed at, not pandered to. The BBC should rethink their decision. So for those people who for a second have been thinking recently that Keir Starmer is serious about turning the Labour Party into a grown-up political party, yes, wake up, guys. He died. He lied.
I mean, he did obviously lie about loads of stuff, but the idea that a grown-up political party should just like... Again, like what's not grown up about this is the fact that fucking 3 days ago, when they thought that all of the swing voters were going to be all anti-Gary Lineker because they fundamentally believe that Britain's full of fucking racists that need pandered to win an election, they were full-throated saying, well, Gary Lineker should never have said these things. Oh, I'm fundamentally disagree, blah 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 blah. And then as soon as they see the massive outpouring of public support for Gary Lineker, suddenly they turn on a fucking dime. That's what's pathetic and embarrassing. That's what's not a grown-up political party. Because again, what he just fundamentally believes that as do many of the centrists and the right-wingers, all of the fucking everybody else in the political spectrum fundamentally believes that left-wing political principles and left-wing political values and left-wing political policies are fundamentally illegitimate and should be excised from all public discourse, and should be, again, the same viewpoint that I was talking about before about agrocentrists will call it student politics or activist politics or the politics of protest. And I'm like, no, I want to get into power so I can use that to nationalise huge swathes of the economy because of the utility of doing so. That's not a pipe, that's not a protest. That's what should happen because it's going to be what would be the best for people. That's what I want to do, right? Because I'm a fucking socialist. In general, does the right-wing independent journalists like these have lots of followers? Should we be worried about more and more young people following clear propaganda like this? I wouldn't have worried about this in a few years ago, but then Tate happened. I mean, I don't necessarily think we should be that worried, James. Like, I've not seen my R2C's follower demographics. It might be loads of older people. I don't know. The idea that it's just young people who will watch things on things like YouTube, for example, I don't think that's true. Like my analytics tell me most of my viewers are in the 40+ range, to be honest, which is surprising to me. But then again, all my TikTok viewers are much younger than that. And then if you look on TikTok, like people like my R2 would get no fucking traction whatsoever. There's very, very little room for right-wing political thought on TikTok because Zoomers just don't want to hear it. So I don't think we should be too worried. Nicola Sturgeon defended Gary already without needing a focus. Yeah, exactly. SNP, a genuine political principles, genuine political party who know what the fuck they're talking about with real goals and viewpoints and ideals, right? Fucking crazy shit. I know, right? A political party with genuine ideals. Everyone from the SNP, full-throated defence of Gary Lineker immediately. None of that triangulation shit. You're not a titty streamer, so you're not missing out the Zoomy audience. Not yet. Not yet, I'm not, Comrade Jock. If I wasn't feeling so fucking rough that I can barely fucking speak, I would always be doing the booby streamer stuff because I'm slowly growing a pair of my own. But, we'll see. It'll take time. Not at Tanner Stage 3 just yet.
To you, all of you, because he doesn't believe in any of that nonsense. Firstly, as a leader, he can't control his own team. That statement is not what the Labour Party should have sent out. Firstly, it's not right. It's just incorrect because it's not about free speech. It's about your employment guidelines. Secondly,
the employment guidelines have nothing about his personal Twitter profile. Don't know how many times I have to fucking say this, but whatever.
People have a free speech to do if they want to criticize government decisions. They can. The Labour Party does it every single day. So this is not communist Russia. But at the same time, having said that, I'm not really defending the ability to have free speech in this country, considering we don't really have full free speech. But it's not because of free speech or cancel culture that Gary Lineker was suspended. There was also a bit of a
It's literally doing exactly what the left was saying for fucking all of the time about this cancel culture moral panic. That it wasn't about cancel culture, it was about the consequences of the decisions, the things that you say. That you have freedom to say, but you may have there may be some kind of other consequences that befall that. But in this case, the guidelines under the BBC state, based upon the fact that he's a freelancer, that this is not something that this is not the proportionate response based upon his existing contract. This is nonsense. This is complete genuine nonsense. These people are desperate. They're desperate to try and find any reason to abandon their principles because, yeah, again, they realise that power is what matters rather than principle. He says, we don't live in communist Russia, this guy says, as the state media organisation should also sack a presenter for criticising the government. They have no principles, no ideology, no nothing. These people haven't got a fucking clue. They have nothing. They have no idea what they're talking about.
between Gary Lineker and Penny Mordaunt, in case you missed this. This is a beautiful moment when Penny Mordaunt, that I've been critical of at times about overall her policy ideas, but Penny Mordaunt was brilliant the way she responded to Gary.
Here's an exchange he's had with the leader of the House, Penny Mordaunt. Penny Mordaunt has said, they've borrowed from Lineker's playbook. Labour are a party of goal hangers and left-wing strikers. That doesn't work in politics. The country needs centre-forwards, people who are prepared to put the hard work in.
How do you do, fellow proles? I also am a fan of the soccer ball. This is like so fucking cringe. I can't believe my is bringing this up as like a fucking dunk, but it's just incredibly like, how do you do, fellow kids type cringe shit. And the fact that Labour responded with a football analogy, it just shows how fucking... Again, this is the guy who wants grown-up political parties. Are you fucking kidding me, you fucking clown?
And create opportunities, and it needs a team captain with a plan.
Absolutely brilliant. Then we had Gary Lineker's response.
This guy's literally a fucking meme.
Thank you for mentioning me in your clumsy analogy. I'm just happy to have been better in the 6-yard box than you are at the dispatch box. Best wishes.
And it was actually, that's a genuinely good response because Penny Mordaunt was shit at the dispatch box. She was really pathetic when she was trying to defend Liz Truss hiding in a fucking fridge, wherever it was.
Take for him to come up with that joke. You could do better, Gary. I believe in you. You can do better.
I'm sorry, I can't believe anyone would look at those two statements and think that Penny Mordaunt was the one who came off better in that exchange. What? No, Boris Johnson hid in a fridge, but I think it was Stella Creasy and questioning Penny Mordaunt in the dispatch box when she was covering for Liz Truss. Asked her if she was hiding somewhere, and Penny Mordaunt confirmed that she was indeed not hiding somewhere. I think I went under a desk rather than in a fridge, though.
Maybe not, although. So, let's not forget that one of the reasons he was taken off air was not only he was refusing to apologise, the guy was just completely smug yesterday when he was approached by the media.
Hi. Hi there. Have you heard from the BBC, Gary? What does the Director General say? Anything to you?
Yeah.
What's he said?
He said, well, we chat often. Cheers.
Anything about the tweet, Gary? Do you regret sending the tweet?
Yeah, I mean, I would also be smug, and I would also treat members of the press with the same fucking disdain, because the members of the press, the doorstepper type journalists are fucking cancer on society, and they need excising immediately, and they should get a new fucking career. No worries, Benny Bartis. Is that Sully Iqbal? I didn't realise he was streaming.
Tweet at all?
No.
Do you stand by what you said?
That's the thing. That smug face was the face of overconfidence. They thought, like in the past, he could get away with it. Because that's usually the case on the political left and on the ultra-liberal side, because they control the establishment. But sometimes, if you put enough pressure on the establishment, they're going to have to be forced to do the right thing. And this is the reality of the situation. Now, we have the new hosts of Match of the Day. It's now been officially announced. We got Boris Johnson and Nadine Dorries. He will be our new hosts for the BBC's Match of the Day programme. Somehow.
Right-wingers just literally have no fucking sense of humour. This is not funny. Like, why are you? Why are you laughing at this? It's not a real joke. This is why they will like signal boost like the least funny people in the world, and why all the good comedians are left wing, like Stuart Lee and Frankie Boyle. I will never be convinced. Again, this must be honestly, this video is so bad it's almost a parody.
The Talk TV studios, by the way. So that was a funny meme that was created and was sent to me, and played by my friend Gareth Milner. So that was actually very good producer at Talk TV. It's actually quite funny because there's going to be so many memes.
That's why he's famous. He's friends with the guys from Talk TV. Of course he is. Oh, I always knew there was some dark money there somewhere. Well, now we know where it's coming from.
I might actually do a video tomorrow. I don't really want to talk about Gary Lineker too much, but I might just do a special video tomorrow, just reacting to all the memes about Gary Lineker that's going to be created on social media over the next few hours.
He's literally fucking Benny Johnson. Remember that guy who had like the Left Can't meme show on exclusively on Parler or whatever it was, and it massively fucking flopped. And it was just him pretending to laugh at memes that weren't funny. Almost certainly.
Let me know your thoughts. Do you believe that it was council culture that brought down Gary Lineker, or his own stupidity? Am I TC and we are the media?
No. I mean, you're a fucking YouTuber. You're a YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber. That's all we are. I can't believe the comments were all agreeing with him. I can't deal with this anymore. That's the end of the segment. Segment over. Like, comment, subscribe, click bell, give money, please.